Hey guys, y'all know the drill. Somebody let me know if you can hear me, if I'm coming through, if you're reading my signal. Very good, very good. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Mary. Is it Mary or Marie? You can't really tell me. Sorry. Max, Matthias, it's good to see y'all on here. I noticed a lot of y'all talking about where you were watching from, and I was kind of um, it's just so odd to me thinking about how many of the places that y'all talked about that I've actually lived, and even a lot of the ones where I haven't lived, I've still been. I've lived all over the U.S., but I saw somebody saying they were watching from Brooklyn. I used to live in Brooklyn, Williamsburg, actually, over on Berry and what was it, Seventh, something like that. Um, Somebody else asked about Houston. Said when was Yeah, Big Nurse says, I didn't know you lived in Oregon. I did actually right before I was arrested. I lived in Oregon for, I want to say, about 9 months, Portland, Oregon, before coming back to Arkansas. And that ended up arguably being one of the biggest mistakes of my life. I like to think, um, in hindsight, this is one of the things that I talk about all the time, and I think this is really important. It's like that scripture in the Bible. It says, all things come together for the glory of God, not some of them, not part of them, not most of them, but all things come together for the glory of God. Yes, Andrew, first off, it's good to see you on here. But yes, I did live in Texas as well. I lived in Dallas when I was a kid. Not a big fan of Dallas. There are other places in Texas that I like a lot. Probably my favorite place in Texas is Fort Worth. And I like it just because it's that old school, almost a caricature of being Texas, where you go out and you can watch them do the cattle drive down the middle of the street twice a day. I have actually art hanging up in my house, rodeo posters, framed rodeo posters that I brought back from my last trip to Fort Worth. My favorite karate tournaments, out of all the ones I've been to so far, my favorite ones are in Texas. And I have got the schedule yesterday, got a few more of those coming up over the next few months. There is one in Houston, there's one in Austin, and I think we're going to have another one in Round Rock later this year. So I'm in Texas a lot. I know Jen. It's good to see you on here, Jen. Jen says, hey, from NYC. Used to live there for a long time. I used to think that I was um, yes, Irina says, I used to see you on the fire escape at Sacred when I worked across the street. Wow. That used to be one of my favorite things in the world. What she's talking about, Sacred, was the tattoo shop where I used to spend every single day. It was where I first started getting tattoos, and it was first where I first started giving tattoos. Uh, that was kind of where I was born back into the world at. And it's a place on the corner of Broadway and Canal in Manhattan. And all of us there, all the tattoo artists, we used to all come out, and we used to sit on the fire escape overlooking the street. You're not supposed to, may even be illegal. I don't know. It's probably one of the ways people have fallen to their death a lot of times. Those fire escapes are really rusty and rickety a lot of times. But we used to go sit out there and just watch. You watch right up under you passing by, just this constant flow of humanity. And I used to sit out there and look down the street towards, what do they call it now? The Freedom Tower used to be the World Trade Centers. Used to look down that direction, and I used to think that was one of the most beautiful scenes I'd ever seen in my life. I still do. But that's kind of amazing that that's where you worked at, across the street from it. Seeing what y'all are talking about. Wow, you worked at Pearl Paint. That place was amazing. When that place shut down, that was one of the ways that I knew the New York that I loved was dying. Pearl Paint, remember Pearl River? It opened up again a little bit later. Pearl River did, slightly down Broadway, a little bit, but it was never the same place. When they were in that big place, when they had that 3-story building, and they had built that little loft, and you could go sit up there and drink tea. Pearl River was this place. I love this place so much. You walked into this building, and it was 3 stories of everything Chinese you could imagine, from clothing to food to tea to Buddha statues. I used to go in that place almost every single day. When Pearl Paint left, when Pearl River shut down, Sacred is closing down. I saw one of the tattoo artists there. This is, one of the signs of the times. It's like, I don't even know any of the tattoo artists there now. And, my best friend who was the manager there at the time, he now works at the biggest tattoo shop in New York called Inked. They're the same ones that make Inked magazine. And I was talking to him a couple of days ago, and he said that Sacred is finally shutting down. And that place to me was part of my heart and soul. That place is part of the fabric of who I am, of what made me, and it's going now. Oh, you see what y'all are talking about. Who says, Samantha Kelly says, I live in Baltimore. I never lived in Baltimore, but I did live in Maryland. I lived in a place, this was when I was really young. I was in elementary school. I lived in, Fredericksburg? It was either Fredericksburg, or Fredericksville. It had the word Frederick in it. I remember that, but I can't remember exactly the name, because when you're a little kid, you don't care. But I did live in Maryland, absolutely. Let's see what y'all are talking about. 1 second. Yep, Frederick, Jenny Pendell says Frederick, Maryland. That is it. And Robert Dubay says, any Florida mages here? Okay, I have never lived in Florida, but I go to Florida all the time. Here in New Orleans, I am just a few hours, like some of my favorite parts of Florida, the what they call the Emerald Coast. I think it is some of the most beautiful landscape I have ever seen in my life. The sands as white as snow, and that emerald green water that you could see all the way to the bottom of the ocean. I think it's one of the most beautiful places I have ever seen, and I go there all the time. Wow, Colt said, Matthias says, ever go to Savannah? I have not, but it's on my bucket list. Me and Dave Stupakis want to go there to make an Invisible Cities. Yes, Robert says, haven't been to Pensacola much. Pensacola is one of the places I love. I absolutely love Pensacola. Asia says, do you ever go to Arizona? I've only been to Arizona a couple of times. I've been once for a book reading, and I drove all the way to the Grand Canyon and back once, went through Arizona. And I talked about Sedona, how Sedona was one of the most amazing, magical, beautiful places I've ever seen. I love Sedona, Arizona. Not a fan of what we normally think of as a desert. A lot of those places out there, when you're driving through them, it's just long stretches of forever. Okay. Okay, so let me get started before I go on and on about something that has no relation to anything that's going to be helpful to you in even the remotest way. But this is the kind of thing that I could sit here all night and do. I am an absolute sucker for nostalgia, looking back on the past, and that is not always a good thing. When we look back on the past like that, I was talking to a friend about this, about how I know that nostalgia is a trap. It's the whole meaning. In the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where Lot and his wife are running from the city, and God says, don't look back. And it says his wife looked back and turned into a pillar of salt. That's kind of a warning against nostalgia, is what that is. And I was talking to a friend recently about this, about why is nostalgia a trap? Why is it bad? And kind of the answer that we arrived at is because when you look back you tend to forget the bad stuff. You romanticize it. You know, you look back and you only remember the good things. And it's true. You know, I used to ride the subway in New York all the time, and they used to put these poems up on the wall of the train. And I remember one of them. It's something I'll probably remember for the rest of my life. It was a poet had written about heaven and how she believed that heaven was like living in the past, not what it's like to actually live in the past, but what it's like to remember living in the past. How, you know, even if we do think of the hard times, we still romanticize them a lot, and we compare them to our present situation. And it always seems like the past was a simpler time, and it really wasn't. You know, we were usually just as stressed out or anxious or whatever it is you were feeling back then. Yeah, Baker says we tend to rewrite the past. That too. Yeah, Time Travel Kitty says nostalgia can keep you in the past. Exactly. And it's like that saying, there's a reason we're not supposed to be looking back all the time. There's a reason the windshield in your car is so much bigger than the rearview mirror, is because we are supposed to be spending most of our time looking forward, not looking back into the past. Okay, so I'm going to shut up about that because it's one of those things, like I said, I could go on forever about. And I want to talk to y'all tonight about elemental magic. And yes, Samantha Kelly says the LBRP has helped me live in the moment more. Exactly. That's one of the side effects of it. If you do these rituals consistently every single day, the daily battery, or the neophyte battery, as some people in the magnum opus groups call them, what we mean by that is the lesser pentagram ritual, the lesser hexagram ritual, the rose cross, and the middle pillar. If you do those every single day, one of the side effects that you will start to realize is that you don't look back towards the past nearly as much as you used to. You find yourself centered, grounded, and focused in the present moment without trying to be. It's just like a side effect that comes from it. Speaking of, however, the neophyte battery, what I wanted to talk to y'all tonight is the next step in that process. When I talked about elemental magic, I'm going to be honest with you. Y'all know I do not like to just trash talk people. I think it's one of the worst character traits that human beings can develop. Usually people who trash talk others aren't very happy individuals, and they're not very pleasant to be around most of the time. Plus, if they're trash talking other people to you, then they're probably doing it about you to other people as well. Whole lot of stuff there going on with trash talking that I don't think it's a good thing to do. So when I say what I'm about to say, I don't mean it as trash talking someone. That's not my point. I'm just going to state something that I have found to be true myself, just from my exposure and experience to a lot of people in the world of magic. And what I mean by that is most people who are into magic, interested in magic, what have you, have never properly done the elemental work. And I don't mean to say that, you know, you hear people all the time, they say things like that, and basically what they're kind of saying is, I'm the only one who knows the truth about how to do this or how to do that. You know, it's like kind of poo-pooing everybody else and like, I'm the sole authority. That's not what I mean at all. I mean, I think there are a lot of people that have probably done the elemental work correctly in the way that it was like prescribed in the Golden Dawn. And usually those people are not the ones you're going to be finding on the internet, you know, bickering and arguing with people about minutia, you know, what have you. What I mean by this, once you can do all of the rituals of the neophyte battery, and once you've been Yeah, yeah. Is it Tile or Tilly? One says they skipped that part in Modern Magic. Um, they did. He did not really go in depth into doing what I'm about to tell you in Modern Magic, the elemental work. After you can do all of those rituals in the neophyte battery, and you've been doing them for, I would say, a good 9 months. Doing them at least once a day for 9 months, preferably twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. By that point, you're going to know all of those rituals forwards and backwards. You're not going to have to, fumble for the words or know which way to walk and charge things or what have you. You're going to have the basic formula of how to do this figured out. Then once you get to that point, like in the traditional Golden Dawn, what you do then is you begin the elemental work. All of the grades in the Golden Dawn system, like the first grades, all correspond with different elements. Meaning, when you're in this grade, you're supposed to be invoking one element every single day for an extended period of time, sometimes up to 9 months. In Magnum Opus, we tell people to do it for 3 months. Every day for 3 months, you're going to work with one element, and we start with earth. What's the reason for this? First, let me describe that first. Most people that are drawn to magic, I'm not saying everybody, I'm just saying it's just from my own personal experience, magic draws a lot of people who are not grounded in reality. You come across, or maybe it's just me, maybe it's because, I've been on TV or whatever, so I draw more unbalanced people than average, just because, people see you on TV and it draws strangeness, what have you. But anyway, the point of a huge chunk of what we're doing when we do magic is trying to get our own crap together. Most people do not have their crap together. They're seeking after things like knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel and crossing the abyss and all of this kind of stuff, when they don't even have they're reaching for the stars and don't even have their feet on the ground yet. When you work with the elements, what you are doing is building a stable, balanced, harmonious foundation that will allow you to do the higher parts of magic. I mean, ultimately, when we talk about completion of the great work, we're talking about a bunch of different things. One thing we're talking about is, of course, the survival of consciousness after physical death, building an energetic vehicle that houses the consciousness so that it doesn't disintegrate after the physical body dies. That's part of the great work. But another part of the great work is very much in line with what the psychologist Jung called self-actualization. Self-actualization means we are reaching our full potential. That's one of the things that magic is here to help us do, to reach our full potential in every single way. This doesn't mean we're going to be perfect. None of us are ever going to be perfect. As long as we are in the physical world, we are not going to be perfect. That is not the same thing as self-actualization or reaching your full potential. Magic is one of the tools that allow us to reach our full potential. What do I mean by that? One of the things that happen, so after you've gotten used to doing the neophyte battery, you're going to start invoking earth every single day for at least 3 months, preferably 9 months. The way you're going to invoke earth, you see this? I've had this for years. This is my little book where you can even see some of it's rubbing out, that's my grease from my thumb blurring. That's mirrored in here. It's hard to see. This is the supreme pentagram ritual that you're looking at here. I did it in this little book when I used to do it like every single day. I wrote it, drew it out in this little book with arrows showing me, like this is the fire one. So the first pentagram, You draw starting from that, I can't see, my fingers mirrored. Starting from that bottom, see where the arrow is? And then you draw the second pentagram on top of it, and you see where the arrow is. There we go. You see where the arrow is there, showing you how to start drawing the second one on top of it. You draw the spirit wheel in the middle. See, that's the spirit wheel. Then over here, you draw the proper, which finger? You draw the proper astrological sign, whatever it is you're trying to draw. So you're going to start invoking earth every single day. Make yourself a little cheat sheet. If you don't know it by heart, if you don't know how to do the supreme, the reason we're not really going to talk a lot about the supreme pentagram ritual, how to actually do it, is because you can find it anywhere. You can find it in Donald Michael Craig's High Magic. You can find it in the Golden Dawn books. You can find it on pretty much in any Magic 101 book out there that you get in any store, period. You can probably find a million videos on it on YouTube. If you've been doing it, it's not going to be too hard for you to figure out how to do it once you read the description, the instructions, and you've already gotten used to doing the neophyte battery. But what you're going to do when you're invoking earth is you are only going to be drawing the pentagram, the supreme pentagram of earth. See both of these? Those are the supreme pentagrams of earth. You're only going to be drawing the invoking supreme pentagrams of earth in all four corners, or all four quarters. You're drawing one in the east, one in the south, one in the west, and one in the north, connected by the line. Not the lesser pentagram, the supreme pentagram of earth. You're going to charge all four of them with the divine names, the spirit pentagram, Agela, Inta, the earth pentagram itself, Immortial, Hectega, and Adonai. This is where you start combining Enochian with Hebrew. It's a combination of the two. So then, remember how I said all of these higher rituals are based on the formula of the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram? You do the supreme invoking in the exact same way. That's what I mean by formula, that you do the lesser banishing. So what's the next step in the lesser banishing or the lesser invoking after you've drawn the 4 stars in all 4 directions? Next thing you're going to do is invoke all of the angels. However, when you're invoking earth, you do not invoke all 4 archangels. You do not want to invoke the archangels of the other 3 elements. What you're going to do is, before you, behind you, and on either side of you, you are going to invoke only the entities associated with earth. If you can see them there: Uriel, Forlak, Cherub, and Gob. Before me, Uriel. Just like that. Behind me, Forlak. Whenever you do it, you inhale, you see the towering angel, the giant angel in a green robe in front of you. See another one. Inhale, see another one expand behind you. Inhale, see another one expand on your right hand. Inhale, see another one expand on your left hand. And you are going to vibrate the names of those entities: Uriel, Forlak, Cherub, and Gob, invoking only earth. Then you're going to close that sphere above and below you. What's the reason for this? Why would we invoke earth every single day? This is what I mean by I've never really seen anyone that has written about doing this work, the elemental work, properly. I've never read this in a book. It might be out there somewhere, but I've never seen it. Maybe you have. But the reason for this, what I mean about getting our crap together, having a solid, stable foundation, and reaching our full potential, is one of the things that invoking earth every single day for at least 3 months, preferably 9 months, is going to do is jumpstart the process of you reaching the full potential of your physical self, your physical body. You're going to want to do little things during this time period that's going to help jumpstart the process or set it in motion. But, you know, little things like in Magnum Opus, we told everyone, for example, during the time when they're invoking earth, you're going to want to take up some sort of exercise routine every day. It could be some kind of dance class. It could be martial arts. It could be gymnastics. It could be yoga. Even if all you do is stay in your house and run on a treadmill for an hour, whatever it was, you should be doing something that's going to strengthen your physical body. Another thing you're going to want to do is spend time in nature. That might mean walking in the woods. It might mean walking along the coast of the ocean. You know, for me here in New Orleans, it's walking along the Mississippi River. Sometimes it's going to the park, you know, practicing staff or whatever in the park. Another thing that we give the people of Magnum Opus to do for homework is grow an herb of some sort. If you have a garden outside where you can plant it, that's great, that's good. But if you don't, get a little plant, a pot, and plant a single herb, a rosemary or a basil or some lavender, whatever it is. Grow an herb. Get your hands dirty. What this is doing is kind of helping you reach your full potential in the realm of your life that corresponds to the element of earth. And if you're doing this invocation every day, the invocation of earth, it's going to do the heavy lifting for you. You might have to do a little something to get it started or whatever, like starting an exercise program, but this is going to propel you forward doing this. You know, two things. One is that, you know, Derek, those of you who don't know Derek, he's the guy who does the Magnum Opus classes with me, that teaches those. He was talking about whenever he was first initiated into an order, the first initiation they gave him was the initiation that corresponds to the earth grade. And basically all of these people invoked earth and then put the energy on him, into him. And he left, and a few months go by, and he actually called the head of the order and he was like, look, I don't think this is for me. I'm dropping out. He said he honestly thought that this was crap. He said, I'm not experiencing anything from this. I'm not getting anything out of this. I don't feel anything from doing any of this and whatsoever. I think it's just people playing make-believe, people who like to put on robes and wave their hands around and say crazy words. I'm not getting anything out of this. But at the same time, you know, this is the guy who was born and raised in the city, grew up in the city. He started thinking, you know what? I really should quit smoking. You know, I'm not as young as I used to be. Maybe one day I'm going to regret this. And he was smoking about a pack and a half a day, and he quit smoking. Then he started thinking, you know what? I haven't been camping in a long time. I really should go camping. Start going hiking again. He started to approach the way he worked and saved money differently. You know, he started saving for the future instead of blowing all of his money on partying or what have you. He started putting away what little bit he had, saving it up for the future. Keep in mind, finances also correspond to the element of earth. He didn't think any of this stuff was related to magic in any way, not related to the initiation, not related to anything. Until he said one day, this was in the beginning stages of YouTube. YouTube was just starting out. And he found a video on there. He said it was a terrible video, not the content of the video, but the look of the video. Like he said, it looked like something somebody had recorded on a VHS recording in the 1980s or something. But it was a video of Lon Duquette. And in this, Lon Duquette was talking about how, like, if you start invoking earth every day, one of the things you might find yourself doing is suddenly starting to take better care of your physical vessel, your physical body. Or you might find yourself wanting to get more, in contact with nature a little more often. He described all of the things that Derek was experiencing that he hadn't even connected to Magick, but whenever he saw him say it on the video, it was like something clicked into place, and he was like, oh my God, this stuff is working. He immediately called the head of the order and said, I want in. I want to know what's next. That's what I mean. Most people never do this part of the work. They skip around and they do little bits and pieces here and there, but they never fully immerse themselves into like the meat of the elemental work. So first step is you're going to start invoking earth every single day for at least 3, maybe 9 months. Somebody asked about posting notes. No, there's no real reason to post the notes. The only thing you really need that might be a little difficult to find, and it's not difficult to find at all, is the names of the archangel, angel, ruler, what have you, of earth. And it's Uriel, Forlak, Carib, and Gob. You can see that there. You can get a screenshot of it or write it down. That's all you really need. But even then, all of this stuff is going to be in any Magick 101 book. For me, when I started doing this every day, I was in prison, and it was kind of the same thing. What happened to me, what I started doing was, I had never really, I was in my maybe late 20s or early 30s at the time. And I had never really, given a thought. Nobody in my family worked out. Everyone in my family ate trash. No one looked after their health in any way whatsoever. They ate stuff on a regular basis, like frozen pizzas out in boxes. They didn't think twice about eating McDonald's, all of that kind of stuff. But I found myself suddenly doing push-ups every single day, doing sit-ups every single day, stretching every single day, doing jumping jacks every single day. I didn't even really equate it with Magick either. I just thought, well, got all this time on my hands. I'm in prison. Might be here a while. May as well do something, it's going to be useful in some kind of way. So I started doing calisthenics every single day. Little things like that without even knowing it, without even realizing it. I'm telling you this because you're going into it knowing what it's for, what you're supposed to be, what kind of changes you're supposed to be experiencing, and telling you should do things that'll jumpstart it, like take up an exercise routine of some kind. Personally, I prefer martial arts just because it allows you, it kind of motivates you to keep making progress. You've got the belt system, and you're constantly learning something new. You're not just doing the same things every day over and over. Second thing you're going to do after 3 to 9 months of working with earth, you're going to turn around and you're going to start doing the exact same thing with air. You're going to use the air invoking pentagram, the spirit pentagram, and the air pentagram on top of the spirit invoking pentagram. You're going to start doing the same thing every single day that you were doing with earth, only you're going to be doing it with air. And the entities of air, you've got Raphael, Chassan, Ariel, Peralta. Same way. Before me, Raphael. Behind me, Chassan. On my right hand, Ariel. On my left hand, Peralta. The grade, what air is for, is your mind, your intellect. It is to start sharpening, refining, and deepening your intellect, helping you reach your full potential on the intellectual level of your being. So you're doing earth, and it's helping you get your body and your health and your finances and all that in order. You start invoking air every single day, and it's going to help you start getting your mind in order. Most people's minds are not in any kind of order whatsoever. Hadrian says, is the next element water in some cases after doing earth, based off of some of the maps of the soul you showed us? Yes, it is actually. If you're using like the old geocentric maps of the universe, you know, the cosmological maps of the universe, yes, water is the next thing. The reason we went with air in magnum opus is because earth is a heavy element and water is also a heavy element. So we decided to put air in between them, go from a heavy one to a light one to a heavy one to a light one. We will do earth, then air, then water, then fire last. Go heavy, light, heavy, light. Also, feminine, masculine, if you want to look at that way, in the traditional way. Like I said, Hayden says, how long should one banish for consistently before beginning elemental invocations? Like we said, you should be doing those exercises for at least 9 months. But one of the things, like in the Golden Dawn, the grade that corresponds with the air work is called Theoricus. The same, it's a word that we shares the root of the word theory. And one of the reasons for that is because while you're doing the air work, you are going to start immersing yourself into theory, philosophy, you know, schools of thought, all of that sort of stuff. And we tell people in Magnum Opus to do it with an aspect of magic. Pick one aspect of magic, whether it be tarot, whether it be astrology, whether it be Enochian, whether it be the Golden Dawn, whatever it is, pick one aspect of magic and completely immerse yourself in the theory of it as much as you possibly can. Read articles about it, read books about it, read websites about it, like completely immerse yourself into the theory of some aspect of magic. In real life, it does not have to necessarily be magic. And there are also other ways of doing this. This is one of the reasons that I love Tang Soo Do karate so much, is because this is another vehicle. This is another tool in your toolbox that helps do the same thing magic does, which is reach your full potential in all these ways. When you're learning all of these different things, all of these different kicks and punches and blocks and, you know, joint locks or throws or, you know, anything physical, what you're doing is increasing your physical health. You are reaching your full potential. I mean, they've got us doing things in there also. You start off every class by doing jumping jacks and push-ups and sit-ups and everything else before you ever even move on to the martial arts aspect of it. So one thing it does is greatly improves your physical vehicle and brings you closer to achieving your full potential on the aspect of your being that corresponds to earth. Another thing it does is sharpens and refines your intellect. Look at how often I used to sit here and forget what the hell I was even talking about while I was talking about it. Remember when I used to say, and I still do it sometimes to a certain extent, but not nearly like I used to. Those of you who've been on here with me for a few years, y'all know there were times when I would be sitting here talking and I would stop and say, wait, what were we talking about? And that might happen 5 or 6 times during each thing. I don't do that nearly as much anymore. One of it is because there are all these different things that you have, like you're working your mind all the time. one, you're learning parts of a different language. Like in mine, in the form of martial arts that I do, for example, it's a Korean martial art. So you're having to learn all new Korean terminology, you know, like all the blocks, all the punches, all the kicks, all that stuff. You're supposed to know what they're called in Korean. The second thing is all the forms, or in other kinds of karate, they call them kata, where you're doing, you know, these, it looks kind of like Tai Chi. You have to memorize for every belt level. There is another form that you have to memorize and be able to perform on your test. By the time, every time you get, like when you're a white belt, to go up to a yellow belt, you have to learn one form. To go up to orange belt, you have to know 2 forms. To go up to green belt, you have to know 3 forms. And you have to be able to, like, by the time you get to black belt, when you're tested, you have to do all of those forms to show you have not forgotten any of them. You still remember how to do every one of them. It's sharpening and refining your intellect. Same thing that invoking air in Magick is doing. Third thing, it even works on you on a water level, the part of your being that corresponds to water. You know, what I mean by that, the way it does that is it helps you reach higher states of emotional maturity. You know, this is kind of a joking thing, but there is an aspect of truth to it. I've seen, you know, these little joke videos that people made online talking about the difference in people who like don't practice martial arts versus people who do practice martial arts. And the way they kind of illustrated it, they showed 2 guys like walking through the gym, and they kind of, you know, hit each other's shoulder. And the 2 that don't practice martial arts, they turn around and like, why don't you watch where you're going, man? You know, being really aggressive and like trying to put the other person in check and all that kind of stuff. And then they'll show the same thing happen with 2 people that do practice martial arts. They hit each other and immediately they turn around like, oh, my bad, man. I'm sorry. You know, thanks. Have a good day. Whatever. They're all the aggression is gone. It's because they have reached states of higher emotional maturity. There are other ways of reaching our full potential other than Magick. Magick is just a very, very valuable, potent tool. Yes, Jaman says martial arts is big on respect, honor, and humility. Exactly. You know, people think of it first and foremost as being like a system of fighting. But that's like thinking of Magick as being first and foremost a system of just manifesting things, you know, of getting money or, you know, whatever it is that people are wanting in their lives. Magick is no more focused for the most part on those things than martial arts, a true system of martial arts. I don't mean like MMA or any of that sort of stuff where it's a whole bunch of different parts, you know, a whole bunch of different systems stitched together, like whatever's going to help them win a match or whatever. What I'm talking about are like systems of martial arts, whether it be karate or taekwondo or like real, you know, like the system of jujitsu or, you know, whatever it is, things that is an entire intact system. What those things are for are helping you reach your full potential as a person. Same way Magick does. You're going to go through, and I'm going to shut up now. I was only supposed to be on here 30 minutes. You're supposed to go through and at least 3 months work with each of these elements. This is your homework. You know, most people in Magick don't do this. This is why you'll find so many people in Magick who don't have their crap together. You know, people who are physically miserable, they're living on a diet of Cheetos and, you know, sitting up until 4 o'clock in the morning, not getting enough sleep, arguing with people on the internet, you know, all of those kinds of things that are detrimental to their physical health. They're engaging in most of that stuff. And once again, I'm not saying this to trash talk people. That is not my point. My point is just using this stuff as an illustration so that you see what I'm talking about and you don't fall into those traps. You want to do this work, you know, immerse yourself into it. You want to reach your full potential in this lifetime. That's what you were given this life for. You were given this life to wring every ounce of wisdom and experience and growth that you possibly can get out of it. That's what invoking the elements every single day, working your way through all of them, does. You are going to experience, they talk about the elemental work being microcosmic and the planetary work being macrocosmic. What they mean by that, microcosmic, micro means you internally. You are the microcosm. What you're doing with the elemental work is getting your microcosm in order before you start working with the macrocosm. This doesn't mean it's any less powerful. It's just a different kind of power. The power of working with microcosmic or sublunar forces. Sublunar means elemental because the elements are beneath the level of the moon on those old geocentric maps. What most of the changes that you will experience in connection to doing the microcosmic, elemental, sublunar work, whatever you want to call it, is going to be within you. You are going to notice your life improving physically, mentally, emotionally, and fire is a little harder to describe in one word, but what you'll find happens whenever you're invoking fire every single day will be a lot of stuff that has to do with your focus in life, your ambition. You will find yourself wasting far less of your time and energy on pointless crap and deciding what's really important to you in this world, what's really important to you for you to accomplish, and you will find yourself pouring yourself into that much more and conserving your energy and not wasting it on useless, frivolous things. Okay. Yeah. Yes, Mary. She says disciplined action equals fire. Yes. Exactly. Jen says, I've witnessed a few Magick people losing their shit because they didn't get their Malkuth in order. Yes, indeed. Okay, guys, I'm going to shut up because I was only supposed to be on here for 30 minutes and we went over by half. So I'm going to shut up. But we will pick up again in a couple of days. Yeah, I'm trying to get on here as much as I possibly can. I've just had a weird few days. It's good to see you too, Jen. I didn't know you were even still on here. I'm glad you are. I thought you had dropped off a little while back. So Jamon says fire sounds like much love. It could be in some ways, but water could also be love in some ways because water is very tied into our emotional life. Okay, but I'm going to shut up. Thank you, Dustin. Thank you, Max. I know y'all, Dustin and Max, both of y'all know this already. You've heard all of this before. So those of you who are in the Magnum Opus classes and have heard this before, thank you for bearing with me while I'm explaining the work to people who haven't already heard it. Okay, guys, but you've got your homework. Start invoking Earth every single day for at least the next 3 months, as well as taking up some kind of physical activity, grow an herb. Start hanging out in nature a little bit more, whether it's the forest or, yeah, Jamon says going to go do some push-ups now. There you go. Do it while you're watching, if you're watching TV or something. Well, people don't really watch TV the way they used to. When you watch TV, they had commercials. Netflix and all that kind of stuff doesn't really have commercials. That's what I did when I was in prison. If I was watching something on TV, every time commercials came on, I would get up and do push-ups. Do like 20 push-ups every time commercials came on. And, within a couple hours, you find you've reached 100 in no time. Excellent. Okay, guys, I'm going to get off of here, but I just want to say, as usual, thank y'all for bearing with me. Thank y'all for supporting me. Thank y'all for wanting to do this work with me. Y'all are a huge part of my life, and I appreciate it more than I can articulate. Thank y'all, and I'll see you in a couple days.